feel like it's all a bit tense in here, so I thought I'd start with my favourite Bitcoin joke. Why are governments so hesitant to embrace Bitcoin? Because they hate the idea of proof of work. So it cracks me up every time, that one. So today I'm going to be talking about why crypto is essential to liberating us via this new revolution. And some of you are probably thinking, why do we need to be liberated? And what is this revolution? So we'll get to that. Some of you will be aware of some of the stuff we're talking about today, some of you won't, others will be a good refresher. Either way, I'm excited to present because I really feel like it's a message that really needs to be shared and spread. So some takeaways from the presentation today. Our freedoms and human rights are being violated, both financially through manipulation and control, lack of privacy and censorship. A new revolution has begun, and whether you choose to be involved or not, you are going to be affected either way. In fact, you already are. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how Bitcoin, crypto and blockchain technology is essential for liberation. So just a little bit about me. So I'm a software developer. I've been called a tech visionary. I'm a founder of multiple companies. I started my first business at 16, sold it just a few years later. I founded a company called Easy Employer. At 22 years old, it's now a 7-figure revenue business with staff and clients all around the world. I'm the director of the T360 Group, which is 4 companies. I advise to about 4 other companies on helping them grow and scale. I've been investing in trading since 2013 in pretty much all asset classes, but largely digital assets since 2017. More than 20x my digital asset portfolio since 2017 to 6 digits. I'm a passionate digital asset enthusiast and now cryptocurrency educator. Got 2 active roles now. One is the co-founder, CEO and head of tech and strategy at Breakout Solutions. And the other is as the crypto consultant, where I consult to businesses and help them embrace blockchain technology just to be more efficient, increase revenue, reduce costs, that kind of thing. So guys, I want you to put your hands up if you have a household with your own family. So you might have kids or you might be looking after parents or grandparents. Okay. Now, keep your hand up if your family is able to live your desired standard from just a single parent's wage. Okay, so it's probably about 10%, maybe 15%. And for the younger generation, hands up if you think it's going to be difficult to own a house in an area that you want to live in. I consider mostly people young, so that was probably about 90%. Now, it wasn't always this way. It was only 1 or 2 generations ago where a single parent's wage could actually look after a whole family. So what actually happened and where is all that extra money going? In fact, the modern day reality is actually a lot more dim. So 63% of American households are living paycheck to paycheck, which is up 48% prior to the pandemic. 46% of Americans don't even have $400 in their bank account for emergency expenses. And nearly half of Americans aged 55 plus have no retirement savings. 42% of people have accumulated over $10,000 in debt since the pandemic. This is a very widespread issue that we have here. And what are the problems in our financial world? There actually are a stack. For me, it's definitely a failing financial system. So this traditional financial system has so many middle layers that are incentivized to take their cut really at the expense of you, at the expense of us. We actually call this the financial matrix, and a lot of us are conditioned to live within this financial matrix. And there's a whole video that we've built around that you can get a link on there. Monetary manipulation. The rich are getting richer. The middle class is shrinking, and more people are struggling financially in abundant countries than ever before. Who's heard of the Federal Reserve? Keep your hand up if you believe it's a government organisation. Okay, so most of you know, there's a couple of hands up, don't be ashamed because it sounds like a government organisation. It's not. Basically formed by a group of very wealthy people, about 7 people representing wealthy families in America and banks about 110 years ago. They came together to form legislation to protect their own monetary interests, pretty much at the expense of everyone else. And you'll see some of the damage that's done in one of my future slides. A lack of financial education. So I don't know about you guys, but I didn't learn finances at school. I had to learn myself in my late 20s and early 30s. So this really results in the majority of the population unable to employ strategies to build wealth and pretty much just getting stuck in this endless rat race environment, which is largely around consumerism. There's a very thought-provoking video there as well. So part of that, when the Federal Reserve came in, ever since then, the US dollar has lost 95% of its purchasing power since it came into effect. And it largely started to go really downhill from 1971 when the US dollar was removed from the gold standard. Probably the worst thing that's ever happened to fiat currency. And then you had all the quantitative easing, money printing that started in 2008 with the global financial crisis and really ramped up in 2020. To the point where around 50% of the US dollar circulation has been printed pretty much out of thin air. since 2020. So when you hear this rubbish about inflation is from CPI and all the rest of it, we're being brainwashed. You know, inflation is caused by the expansion of the money supply. It's been redefined a number of times to pull the wool over our eyes. And the central banks and the powers that be, they want this inflation because it reduces their debt burden. And you won't hear about any of this in traditional media or whatever, because the same people who own the media are the same people that set all these agendas. And the effect of inflation is here. It's well and truly here. Here are some stats. Used cars up 41%, gasoline up 38%, food is up 8.6%. I mean, if you look at the CPI in America, it's about 9.1% or something like that. In Australia, it's about 6%. The way they measure that is rigged, basically, so it's really closer to 15 to 20%. So unless you're earning an extra 15, 20, 30% every year than you were a couple of years ago, you're actually losing track to inflation. Your purchasing power is going down. So you better be increasing your earning capacity and or investing your money intelligently. Otherwise, your money is being eroded away. If you left your money under your bed, within 5 years, you've basically lost half of your wealth. So it's a very big problem, even though they're not telling you so. Businesses are also suffering from inflation. So this is a survey from Gartner.com where CFOs were asked what is the biggest risk posed by input price inflation. That's just the price of all the goods that a business needs to operate going up. And 74% of them said lower profitability. So those who have run businesses know how critical profitability is. And if you're going to have lower profitability, you're going to have a problem. Meanwhile, the banks are still collecting their fees and never really stopped. So during the pandemic, over 12.4 billion in overdraft fees was collected. So while people were struggling, they were raking in their money. And I don't know if anyone's heard of the fractional reserve banking system. Some would, some won't. You probably don't know that they can lend basically up to 10 times the amount of money that gets deposited in there, earn interest rates up to 18%, and pay you less than 1%. It's a rigged system, and all of us are losing out. Some examples of violations of freedoms in any totalitarian regime, basically anywhere where people can't do anything without prior permission or approval. So just a couple of examples. In Palestine, they were forced to accept the currency of the government in order to receive their lands. There's something called the CFA, which is basically a French currency that's controlling about 8 African nations. So everything that those nations produce basically is sold through the French, and they control everything. So that nation is being severely suppressed. Basically, any money lending from any powerful organisations, typically to smaller countries. So that the Chinese are doing it, the International Monetary Fund, the US. So basically, they'll lend enough money to these countries so that they can survive through the hard times, but enough so that they will never be able to pay it back. And so when they start to struggle, then they basically have the reins over them. They can start to take property and land and all the rest of it. Again, stuff that you won't hear about. An example of liberation in this regard is El Salvador. I'm sure you've heard that last year they embraced Bitcoin as legal tender. So they've really chosen to take a stand over being suppressed by the US monetary circulation regulation for so long. So they've had some ups and downs, but they've had some really big wins, like increasing GDP and other things, and getting I think a 30 or 40% growth in tourism. So moving on to the privacy side. Hands up if you had the experience of having a conversation with someone and then seeing advertisements on your phone for that exact item or topic. It's fucking scary, man. Now, keep your hand up if you've seen the documentary The Great Hack and understand how some of this is actually achieved. Not many hands. You really need to watch that documentary. It is very, very scary, and those that have seen it will realise about the violations of our privacy that have been happening for quite some time now. But what you might not be aware of is how far this is actually going. And most people can't really comprehend it, but I'm going to use an example to help to illustrate that for you. Also put your hand up if you've seen the Black Mirror episode about the social rating system that scores people based on their adherence to guidelines and rules. Pretty scary, isn't it? What about keep your hand up if you know that this has actually already been implemented somewhere in the world? Okay, cool. So pretty much all you guys have seen it know. So this has been implemented in China. And this is basically the system here. So depending on how good you are as a social citizen, you'll get a credit, you'll get a rating, a social rating, and that basically dictates what you get access to in that country or what you don't. So it has inputs like finance and credit, things like that. Adherence to traffic rules, you get caught jaywalking and your score goes down. Criminal records, things like that. The most scariest one is the online input. So they monitor interactions with like internet users, your shopping habits, what you buy in e-commerce stores, and basically the stuff that you post online, the reliability of the stuff that you post online. Who do you think the judge of that is? And some of the punishments: denial of licenses, permits and access to some social services, exclusion from booking flights, less access to credit, restricted access to public services. The list actually goes on and on. That's just a snapshot. But the one that scares me the most, actually the one that scares me the most I'll talk about in a minute, the one on this list that scares me the most is the public shaming. So I'll actually plaster your picture across public TV screens or public billboards and TV screens with your name and contact information, or someone's trying to call you, will say, you know, you are dialing a dishonest citizen. Pretty bloody scary. And they're about to go one step further and control something that really will fully control and dominate people's lives. Does anyone know what that is, what that next step is? Just yell it out. Yep, I heard a kind of CDBC and a digital yuan. Spot on. So this is probably the scariest thing that I've seen in my 25-year technology career is central bank digital currencies. And this is a key message I want to get across to you guys today. So any tool can be used for good or bad. In this case, it's bad. So this is the most concerning use of blockchain technology that I've seen. CDBCs, basically a surveillance coin, and it's really all about control. Okay, it's all about controlling the citizens. And they're going to get people on this because there will be incentives to actually use these CDBCs. So, I mean, if I was gamifying it, I'd do something like, get paid your salary in a CDBC and get an extra 6.5%. Who needs your pay rise when you can just adopt a CDBC? So there's going to be lots of ways that are actually going to get people onto this. And it's going to be pretty scary. So social rating systems, as I talked about, along with other strategies and systems, are going to be integrated. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, that's just China, like that's not going to come to the West. It's coming. It's coming. It's going to be a lot more subtle about it, and it's going to be under the ESG guidelines. And if you read any of the white papers on the CDBCs, the American ones, you'll see that there's a lot of this in there that they're looking to get passed. And the people that are looking to pass this stuff are very smart, and the way they can kind of twist media and things to get people to vote for stuff does concern me. So I guess this is probably my key message for today is a revolution has begun. So if you've studied history, you don't have to look too far to see examples where people actually stand up to the powers that be. And it typically happens when people are suppressed for long enough, where they're just fed up and they choose to make a decision to actually stand up for what they believe in. I'm 100% certain that we're now at the start of a new revolution, a financial and privacy revolution, if you will. And this is a pushback against the powers that be, the elites, the central banks, and the powerful governments. And the resistance is building. And there's a growing group of aware and awake people that are aware of what is actually happening and willing to stand up for our freedoms, for others, and for humankind as a whole. Now, what is one of our weapons? Blockchain technology and decentralization. Now, we have a long way to go with this technology, but I can assure you that the train has already left the station. And the question is, at which stop are you actually going to get on? Because the sooner that you get on, structure yourself and prepare for what is coming, the easier it's going to be when this stuff starts to come into play. So I'm going to finish off just with a few examples of how Bitcoin and crypto is actually instrumental to this fight for freedom, both for our privacy and our finances. So what are the main uses of Bitcoin? I consider three of them. Excellent store of value. So it's the hardest form of money humankind has ever created. Anyone that doesn't believe that statement, I've got a whole slide on it, but I don't have time to run you through that today. It's the best performing asset class over the last decade, and I believe, and many believe, it will be the best store of value over time. It is a fantastic medium of exchange, and for those that think it's expensive to exchange Bitcoin, it costs $20 for a transaction or whatever, probably not aware of the Lightning Network that is being implemented across the board in a number of places at the moment. So effectively, you can send any form of digital asset anywhere around the world instantly and at no cost. Think about that disruption. And that's already here, and it is the Lightning Network. Twitter's integrated it, it's been integrated into the app that El Salvador used, etc. But I guess as importantly, or more importantly, is the fact that it's a freedom technology. So assets are protected indefinitely. If you have the right security, you know how to maintain that. Governments can't confiscate it, and it's truly decentralized, which pretty much makes it impossible to shut down. So a lot of people are very positive about the potential of Bitcoin. Here's a couple of them. Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal. I do think Bitcoin is the first encrypted money that has the potential to do something like change the world. Or the late John McAfee. You can't stop things like Bitcoin. It will be everywhere, and the world will have to readjust. World governments will have to readjust. He made that statement quite a long time ago. And rest in peace, mate, you were right. So some of the solutions that we are implementing at Breakout Solutions, we've actually been doing DeFi for quite a while now, probably about 2 years, and it's awesome to see so many people talking about DeFi because we spend a lot of our time educating people on this, and it's not well understood. So this is all being built out at the moment. I've definitely been a great benefactor of this. I literally got back from a 6-week trip to Europe last night. So anyone who has done that trip and that leg back knows that I'm probably a little bit jet lagged at the moment, so this is a little bit of a challenge for me. But on my travels, I actually filmed a video, it's on my Instagram, about how I pretty much paid for this whole trip, 6-week trip for me and my partner, and not on the cheap either, all through crypto and DeFi. So I do a little video of farming, of claiming some of my DeFi profits, chucking it on my crypto card and going and having a lovely meal, just to try and connect, the whole concept of DeFi and living. That's something you can see on my Instagram. We're working with one of our partners on a crypto payment solution. So it's no secret there are ways to accept crypto payments. These guys are building a platform where it gives the flexibility to the merchant on how they want to receive their funds. So as a business, for example, I could charge you for a service. You could pay using a debit card or a credit card, and I could either receive that money to my bank account in fiat currency, like AUD, or I could receive that as stablecoin and then use that as I'm pleased, invest it, spend it, whatever. So this is really important because it allows businesses to operate without a bank account. If everyone's tried to get money or out of a bank account, out of a bank recently, or work with banks, you'll understand how much of a nightmare it's becoming to try and work with them. So being able to actually operate a business outside of the traditional finance system, I think, is going to become critically important. So this is a very exciting project that we're working on. So another project I came across recently, which is basically building a true peer-to-peer internet standard, which is what the internet was supposed to be in the 90s. And a quote from them is, "We're providing consumers with a much-needed choice concerning where and how their data is stored and transferred." I'm super excited about this, and I'll try and articulate to you why. So they're basically building on top of the Lightning Network. So anyone's familiar with Bitcoin, it's a layer 1 solution. Lightning is layer 2. They're actually building this, they're calling it layer 3. So they've already built all of this technology. So a video conferencing tool without needing to rely on Zoom, a messaging app without needing to rely on WhatsApp, a document authoring product without Google Docs, publishing without Facebook, identity without the state, all fully decentralized and trustless. This for me is an absolute game changer. They're delivering this through a new browser that works on top of the Lightning Network. So this is truly a way to protect our privacy and our freedoms, to start to adopt this technology where we don't have to rely on any centralized authority, particularly ones that don't have our best interests in mind, and none of them really do unless it's a community organization. Just a little bit about us to finish off. So who are we, Breakout Solutions? So currently we are focused on helping to liberate people financially through digital assets. So we are a collective team of experienced professionals in a whole bunch of different fields, and we are all crypto enthusiasts. And we basically do the hard work to help you harness digital assets to benefit you, your business, and your family. So we have a whole team of researchers, analysts, and coaches delivering financial education, research reports, mindset training, etc. And part of our research helps people choose the right assets at the right time, so they can maximize their upside on their investments and minimize their downside. And our team provides a lot of education, and particularly some semi-automated tools to help you manage all that. We specialize in helping people get invested into the crypto space without having to spend a lot of time. I probably spend maybe an hour a week on my portfolio, and it's retired me a long time ago. So that's basically what we teach. And we have a range of products for services and businesses. I think the most important thing about what we do is the fact that we are mission-led generally. And if I had time, I'd tell you why I even started this company, or this organisation, this movement, whatever you want to call it. So our big, hairy, audacious goal is actually to help 1 million people reach financial independence by the year 2032, all through digital assets. So we're about 500 members at the moment, gone from 1 staff to 10 in 12 months, and attracting some amazing people to come along this journey with us. So what are we all about? We have an education brand called Decrypting Crypto. Everything's free. We're trying to demystify crypto. This is all targeted at the new investor, free education training, basically how to get started. We have something called the 1K Day Club. It's probably our most popular offering, where we just teach people about how to actually get started. So how to set up your security fundamentals, buying your first Bitcoin, building your first portfolio, creating your first passive income streams, leveraging your first DeFi protocol. So just all the real basics to get people started with the foundational knowledge. And our flagship product is something we call the Millionaire Club, which is aspirational. You don't have to be a millionaire to be in it. And that's our flagship program where we help people go really deep who want to invest more money and diversify into that space. And as I mentioned, we have a whole bunch of business offerings as well. So just to finish up, if you want to find out more, Decrypting Crypto is there, decryptingcrypto.com. Anything else that I've talked about, breakoutsolutions.com. Grab my Instagram there at Michael Hazza. One more thing, because I know we do have a crypto savvy audience. here today. So many of you may not be relevant to, I guess, the products and services that I've just discussed. But I guess my call out is, we are on a mission here to make a real difference across the world. And we need a lot of talent to be able to do that. And I've been very grateful that we've attracted some amazing talent already along this journey. And so we're always looking for people, whether you're crypto savvy, tech savvy. If anything's resonated with you, please come and speak to either myself, or we also have Wasim here, or Matt there will be around. We'd love to have a chat with you and collaborate and see how we can increase this mission or further progress this mission together. So thanks for listening, guys.